What would you do if you walked into your backyard and found your neighbor in your pool? Not once, not twice, but over and over, claiming it was community property. That's exactly what happened to Marcus. But instead of losing his cool, he waited and caught her on camera. And when the police showed up, she froze. This is the story of how one entitled Karen learned the hard way. You don't mess with the wrong neighbor. The neighbor's name was Brenda. Though everyone in the neighborhood had already nicknamed her Karen, she had a reputation for pushing boundaries, making up rules, and treating other people's property like community land. When Marcus confronted her the first time, she laughed and said, "Oh, come on, it's just a pool. It's not like you own the water." That comment shook him. He politely told her not to come back, but days later, she returned, this time with her teenage son. They splashed around, leaving wet towels on his chairs. When Marcus reminded her again, Brenda rolled her eyes and said, "If you didn't want people using it, you shouldn't have built it in plain view." Soon, things escalated. She started telling neighbors the pool was for community enjoyment, as if Marcus had donated his own backyard to the neighborhood. One afternoon, when Marcus confronted her again, she muttered under her breath, "People like you should know better than to act like you're above everyone else." That comment carried a sting he couldn't ignore. Instead of yelling, Marcus decided to stay calm. He began documenting everything. Videos on his phone, pictures of her trespassing, even the times she left trash behind. He knew sooner or later Brenda would push too far, and he would be ready. The breaking point came on a hot July weekend. Marcus's kids had invited a few friends over for a swim. When they walked into the backyard, Brenda and two of her friends were already in the pool, laughing loudly, sipping wine coolers, and acting like it was their private club. Marcus's children looked at him, confused, embarrassed. That was it. Marcus pulled out his phone, started recording, and calmly walked to the edge of the pool. "Brenda," he said firmly, "you are trespassing on private property. I've told you before, and this is the last warning. Leave now, or I'll call the police." She stood up, dripping wet, furious. "This neighborhood has rules. You don't get to keep everything for yourself. The HOA will hear about this." Marcus didn't flinch. He turned the camera toward her and said, "Perfect, let them hear, because I'm done being silent." Then he dialed the police in front of her. Brenda froze. For the first time, she realized he wasn't bluffing. When the officers arrived, Brenda tried to play the victim. She claimed Marcus had invited her once, and that she thought it was always open, but Marcus had receipts. Time-stamped videos, photos, and even text messages from neighbors who'd seen her sneaking in. The truth was undeniable. The officers gave her a trespassing citation and warned her that if she returned, she'd face arrest. The humiliation on her face was priceless. Gone was the smug entitlement, replaced by red-faced fury. Neighbors who had watched her antics quietly applauded Marcus for finally standing his ground. After that day, Brenda never set foot near his pool again. Word spread quickly, and Marcus regained his peace. His family could finally enjoy their summer without the shadow of an entitled neighbor ruining it. Stories like Marcus's remind us that standing up for yourself doesn't always mean shouting, losing your temper, or meeting aggression with more aggression. Sometimes the most powerful form of resistance is patience, quiet strength, and the courage to gather proof before making your move. Entitled neighbors, Karens, and even some HOA bullies thrive on fear and silence. They depend on people being too embarrassed or too tired to fight back. They hope you will roll your eyes, mutter under your breath, and simply let them get away with it. But Marcus's story shows us something different. He didn't let his anger take control. He didn't start a screaming match that could have been twisted against him. Instead, he stayed calm, he collected evidence, and he prepared himself. And when the right moment came, he stood his ground in a way that couldn't be ignored. That's why Brenda froze. Because she realized her words, her entitlement, her excuses couldn't stand up to the truth. And that truth was on video. This story also reminds us of something deeper about human behavior. When someone crosses our boundaries again and again, it's tempting to explode. It's natural to feel like yelling, shaming, or even fighting back right away. But calm, Steady action often cuts much deeper. It shows strength. It forces the other person to confront their behavior without giving them an easy excuse to play the victim. And that's exactly what made Marcus's payoff so satisfying. Not just for him, but for everyone who had to watch Brenda act like she owned something that wasn't hers. Now I want to ask you, what would you have done in Marcus's place? If you walked into your backyard and found your neighbor sitting in your pool chair, sipping a drink, and acting like they belonged there, would you have stayed calm and collected? Or would you have snapped the very first time? Would you have tried to reason with them? Or would you have gone straight to the authorities? Drop your answer in the comments below, because I'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the QZHOA stories, and turn on notifications, because more chilling stories of entitlement, justice, and revenge are on the way. You won't want to miss what's coming next.